Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be with you.
Yeah, I know. Does that feel, are you getting used to that right now until we build it?
No, it's still weird.
I know. It feels like I turn it over to you for that whole thing, and it's like, now you're just like, hey, good morning, everybody. We're working on it.
Working on it.
And
it's not that they're not insulting us.
Yeah.
That's definitely not it. So
yeah, but it's only really good when we have several words, right? We can, if they just called us one word, it's like, yeah. I don't think it's as impactful or as funny or whatever.
Do better, leftists. More insults.
Yeah, well, we need to find a way to get people to goad them to say things so we can have material.
There you go.
Maybe I just need to watch more news or something. I don't know to figure that all out. All right. Well, okay. So we're back at it, and I think today's going to be a really nice day. This is kind of I guess this is kind of typical March weather. It's kind of on again, off again. We get some cool days, and then some warmer days, and some cool nights, and things like that. But it's trending upward, and when is the first day of spring? In a couple of days or something like that?
Yeah. So maybe even tomorrow.
Yeah. So, which is a calendar type of a thing, but it's not like all of a sudden every time you have the first day of spring, summer, fall, winter, whatever. It's not like all of a sudden the weather just automatically switches to the next season, right?
Yeah, especially around here. It's a slow climb.
Yeah. So anyway, so we'll we celebrate the fact that spring is about to spring in essence, and enjoy the weather. That'll be good for duffers like Brian.
Yeah.
Give him a chance. So have to try to find a way to squeeze that in between your basketball as that comes up too.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, that's good. I mean, for me, it's I don't know. I guess as I've gotten older, and I'm like, I just need to tidy up around the house, at least the exterior, and we're slowly but surely getting our backyard, this one portion that I've really hated for years. And it's been like every spring and every fall we attack it, try to get all the weeds and junk out of there. And I was looking at it last week, and I'm like, I think we're just about there. I think we're almost there, where one more round of just doing a little bit of this, and then we're going to put down some of that ground cover stuff, that sheets that help keep the weeds down. And after the show, actually, I think I'm going to go to the local nursery and talk to them about, try to figure out how much mulch I need to have them deliver, which I've never had done before. At least I haven't done. Maybe, I don't know. I can't remember what my wife did when we moved in here 21 years ago, but that area hasn't been mulched basically in 21 years, and then lay down the mulch and see if I can get a few years out of that and create something where you get a few flowers, but basically keep the weeds out and other overgrowth.
Right.
And stuff like that. I was like, yeah, home ownership. There's always one thing after another, and there's
you know what? That's one thing. It's like, I don't have to take care of anything outside my door, and that's good, because like you say, I'm off basketball or golf or something, baseball games. Baseball is also, the MLB regular season is underway, and there've been 2 games played in the real actual season. So I do other stuff, right? I don't get the urge to go work in the backyard and clear out spots and stuff.
Yeah. So, the other thing about it too, I mean, I've actually, so I'm a Mac person, Apple person all the way. So I like it because my phone, my iPad, my computer all interact as one. So if I write, I have, they have a notes feature, and I've created a bunch of different, notes. Some are like little to-do lists and everything like this. And
scouting reports.
Scouting reports, yeah.
Scouting reports of 1 million basketball teams. Coaches out there, just call.
Yeah, that's true. So one of the things in my notes list is I labeled it punch list. Kind of like when you buy a home and you go through and you say, here's the stuff that needs to be corrected. Absolutely. I started to create basically a punch list of things like these things need to be done, or and maybe some other things I'll add to there are the hope fors, the wants versus the immediate needs. But I'm thinking like, yeah, I think homeowners need to do it. Now, you don't have to worry about that. Nice thing too about you is like, I mean, I love being in a home overall. I mean, there's always trade-offs the way we
Right.
choose to live our lives. But one of the things I think about your lifestyle too is that when you guys go and you do your vacations, you don't
Yep.
have to worry about a lot of stuff,
That's
right?
right.
Me, I've got a Nest Cam with a Ring doorbell. I've got a couple of indoor cameras, and I'm checking them once in a while, and all this stuff. And you want to make sure that the house looks somewhat lived in, so you got to leave lights on and all this kind of stuff. And there's always a little bit of a stress level. I live in a really good neighborhood. It's basically crime free, but I'm on that next door list, and there's stuff that's happening all the way around my area, within 2 miles. Stuff, stolen cars, cars broken into,
Yep.
burglaries, you name it, it's happening. And so it's a little bit of a stressor when you own a home, because it's like you want to make sure the home is there when you get back, right? I mean,
Right.
a gas line leak and the home could blow up while you're gone. I mean, just
Yeah.
all kinds of weird stuff can happen. So, there is something to be said for a simpler lifestyle than I am living in that sense. And plus, now I'm kind of struggling with. I did promise my wife that I would give up, cutting the lawn myself, but it still kind of calls to me. I kind of like it, but maybe I'll find a way to kind of negotiate with her a little bit halfway and stuff like that. Part of it is like I'm not really crazy. I don't mind getting the exercise and doing it, or versus paying a guy $50 every time he shows up to cut my grass. I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So when I cut the grass, I'm looking at stuff. I'm looking to see if there's things that need to be fixed. You
Right.
hire a guy. They're basically cutting the grass. They're trimming that. They're trimming the sidewalk edges and stuff like that, and then they go on to their next job. And they're not going to tell you, by the way, you've got this, that, and the other. So
Right.
anyway, differences in how we all live our lives as Americans. But that's what's great about America. We just have a chance to do all these different things. All right, enough of that, I guess. News, which I don't think we have a whole lot of, right?
No.
Never have enough news. All right, so let's start off with Israel first, and we'll spend some time overseas and then come back home and just do whatever we normally do. So the ceasefire, as it was, in place, is whatever you want to call that, been about what 58 days or something like that. I think I heard.
Yeah.
And then Israel started lobbing, rockets, a big attack into Gaza. Of course, the media narrative is just, this is Israel as the aggressor doing these things. But, Hamas was not really coming around on the hostage negotiations. I mean, I think Israel has been pretty patient with hostage negotiations.
Yeah. Why do you still have people? If you don't want to get bombed, if you're really interested in like making the bombing stop, give up the people. It's not very many people. A lot of them are dead, right? And you're going to have to live with whatever the outrage that comes from that. But if you have people in there, give them up. Do it right now, right? You could change the whole narrative by just giving back the hostages. But they're so like committed to the hatred and the concept of driving the Jews out of Israel that they can't do that, right? They're not heroes to their people if they give back the prisoners, if they give back the hostages, right?
Yeah, I mean, then
they're being encouraged to be the most terrible people on earth.
Yeah, I mean, they give back the rest of the hostages. If there's nothing really left there, then whatever leverage they had, that's it. They're still trying to leverage that, but they've just been dragging their feet on this. I think Israel has been pretty patient. And there's obviously people in Israel that are clamoring, like, they want either their loved ones, whether or not they're alive or dead, they want to know, and if the bodies are there, remains are there, they want them, they want to be able to bury them and take care of them that way. Hamas doesn't care about any of that.
Right.
And they're looking for maximum extraction of what they can get out of Israel. I mean, to me, it's always been, with a lot of these things, always been very lopsided, right? Israel can get 10 hostages back, but they have to give Hamas 100 prisoners or something like that.
Right.
I've
Right.
never liked that. We've seen this happen all over the world. I've hated this, but that's kind of the way it works.
Well, we care about people, and they don't.
Yeah,
They set against us.
look, I'm glad that they're getting their people back, but I hate the fact that they have to give up, a huge multiplier of that, especially when you're dealing with terrorists and you're basically giving them back terrorists who can do more damage to you again. It's not like you've been holding them and they reformed, right?
Right.
The recidivism rate on this is high.
Yeah, that's
probably,
right. That's
probably
right.
100%, right? So it's like this is not like you've given them reformed terrorists back, if there is such a thing as a reformed terrorist. So it's always been kind of a lopsided type of thing, but they want to get their people back, and Hamas is not willing to do so. So I don't know. Does it look like Israel is going to do a lot of pounding away? They're going to go at this a lot more aggressively now. They're kind of like
they're I think they're at the stage where they're trying to make it where it's impossible to live in Gaza, so everyone leaves and they can knock it all down and start rebuilding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, MAGA Gaza may be back on the table again.
Yeah. And predictably, that was a good Trump win. There's a lot of momentum to do this without the United States. There's a lot of people that are ready to put money into it and make Gaza into something. And, we're not really going to have to do it. Trump's not going to really have, Don Jr. down there with his construction hat on, the little light bulb in the front and everything. I mean, that's not how it's going to go down. Right. And so, how are we going to protect them? Like, we don't have to protect them. There are other people going to be protected, and other people, but it's that going forward, it's gonna, the things are happening, and I read somebody today, it's like, you can't blame me, I voted for Kamala. It's like, none of this would have happened if Kamala had won. Nothing, right? It would just been more of the same lackadaisical, no direction thing that we had going. So,
yeah, I mean, look, not everything has gone perfectly. Not everything ever does go perfectly for a new administration coming in. But in this particular case, I mean, anybody out there saying, "Don't blame me, I voted for Kamala," they really need their head examined, because what we've seen, is this whirlwind. So we're what's today? So we're almost 60 days in, I think, right?
Yeah. It's tomorrow. Tonight's the 19th. It'll be 2 months tomorrow.
Yeah. So we are, we're just about 2 months into this administration, and it has been just this barrage of things. But you can laugh. People can laugh at the whole kind of MAGA Gaza or whatever you want to call it, but it was almost a master stroke in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Who in the heck ever thought about that? I mean, it took Trump on this kind of being unleashed. It's like, let's do something different. Let's fix this.
Right.
Let's create something out of this area that that could use that.
We're not back here in 6 months dealing with the same problem.
Right.
The other key is the people who lived in Gaza before are not going to live in it there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and and the invasion took, the war started October 7th, 2023. Biden left office in January of this year, right? So there was time. I mean, there was time to to look into the situation, try to do something, but here we are, just shy of 60 days, and there's more movement. There's been more movement on settling this thing than there was in all this time, since the war began, when the Biden administration was in charge.
Right. And same with Ukraine.
Right. And this has become a hallmark of the Trump administration, whether or not you agree with it or not. I think, you and I have both kind of said going, into this election and whatnot, and after election, that we knew that this was probably the likely outcome, in the sense of that Trump wanted to end these things as quickly as possible, and he was going to get serious. So he's made the wheels turn a lot faster. He still has that desire to get this figured out and fixed, but he does. He is not likely to stand for something that'll go on for 6 months to a year to settle. He wants a quicker solution to these issues, these oral, so that he can go ahead and apply his agenda domestically and the other things that he's trying to do, and get these wars off the table. And we have other things that we need to worry about as well. So it has been very, very interesting. Now we will switch to Ukraine and Russia. So there's a ceasefire proposal on the table that Zelensky apparently had agreed to, but Putin is not too keen on this. As I understand, you correct me if I'm wrong, part of the thing in this ceasefire agreement is that, or at least that, is that what Putin doesn't like, or what he has said to not like, is that he doesn't want any Western aid, I guess military aid, to Ukraine, and then he might agree to something. I mean, I guess he's halted some, that he's going to halt some attacks on certain, areas of Ukraine.
Energy infrastructure, and then he went out and bombed an oil refinery. So, Putin's gonna Putin. That's the thing about it, is like, and Trump realizes that, right? He's a dirty trickster. He's a KGB guy. What he's saying is not really what he's saying. And, you got to pin this. It's like nailing jelly to the wall, right? But again, something is happening. We're now, Trump has put something out there, and we're now talking not about what should we do, but up or down on a specific proposal provided by Trump, right? Which, again, if you voted for Harris, right, we would not have a specific proposal. We would not be leading the peace talks of this. We would be stuck in the same meat grinder we were before, and with things getting worse, and NATO rattling the sabers of provoking a nuclear war over 200 miles of mud in Eastern Europe. So it's moving toward it. It's not going to be, we don't, the thing about it is like Trump doesn't really have a lot of leverage here, right? The Ukrainians are running to the Europeans to try to, to keep the weapons flowing. Europeans are kind of, well, we'd love to help. The Russians are content to keep going as long as it takes to get what they want. We don't really have a good way, absent a bunch of American soldiers going over there, of dislodging them from where they are. So, Trump's kind of dancing on the head of a pin here, and he's made some progress. So, it would be, he's playing with the energy markets. You can already see energy prices going down rather rapidly at this point, again, which really hurts Russia, because Russia is almost entirely dependent on extraction industries for its income at this point. So I think that, they've got a thing. Trump's got a thing. It's not going to work today or tomorrow, but it will work. But you got to ride it out.
Yeah, I think that Trump getting Zelensky to agree to basically go to the ceasefire. I think that's a really good thing. And I really think that it would have been nice. It would have been nice if Putin would have agreed to this. Okay, then to me it would have showed that Putin is really not this madman or whatever. Just the Putin.
He's not a madman. He's very calculated, but he's not looking out for our interest or Ukraine's interest. He's looking out for Russia's interest.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I guess he looks at this and says, "Look, I still kind of play, and I've got some of the more of the cards are in my deck than your deck, and so why should I agree to this? I don't want Ukraine to be backed by Western aid, arms, or whatever. But for me, it's like I don't think Ukraine then winds up being somewhat defenseless without some backing, beyond what they already have. They've already been pretty decimated. There's a small country. This has been, a long war already. We're at over 1,100 days now, heck. And so, it's just one of those things that you kind of wonders, like, if Putin wants to show the world that he is more of a statesman and that he really wants peace, I think he needs to come to the table with something that is reasonable for, that can be acceptable to Ukraine as well. I mean, I just think that he has, yeah, like you said, Putin is going to be Putin. He's just, to me, he's a snake in the grass. Yeah, Trump doesn't have a lot of leverage here, and he is trying to delicately make this happen. But what happens to me is, in some respects, is that it looks like Trump winds up doing more of Putin's bidding than of Ukraine and Zelensky's bidding. I mean, I think Trump wants to settle this. He doesn't. I don't know if he really wants to take sides in this. He wants to just bring them together and say, "Do this, and let's move on. Let's go." Too many people have died. There's been too much carnage. Let's go. Both countries need to rebuild, particularly Ukraine, and there's resources that that we like to get, as a result of what's out there that are hard to reach because this war, if we keep getting pounded, you really can't extract things. So it's not, the U.S. has got some interest there, but I just don't know how we get to that, area where Putin will say yes, unless he feels that he's got Zelensky crying uncle. And I don't know if that Zelensky is going to cry uncle necessarily. It's hard to predict. I mean, obviously, I'm not there in the negotiation. I'm no expert in sitting in there on all these kind of meetings, but from the layman side, it's just like things are happening, but when
he's a heck of a lot closer to making Zelensky cry uncle than Zelensky is to making him cry uncle.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like I think if you're Putin now, you're like, okay, the United States is not committed to sending billions of dollars over there all the time and keeping this going in the current way it's going, right? And the Europeans talk a good game, but they don't really put up a lot of money, and they don't really have a lot of military capability to put up, right? So I mean, it's us. We're still the only game in town, which they've all had explained to them very careful ways so that they understand it. So the question is, and that all these people need to answer is, what are you going to do? How do you dislodge Putin from Ukraine? Right, that's what you want to do. You can get that through negotiation, but you're going to give up something, right? He's going to do, if that's your objective, like get him out of every inch of Ukraine that he's captured, right? Then you need to tell us, how do you want to do that? Because I don't know that like the world has the commitment to do what it takes to do that militarily, right? I don't know who's really going to step up for that. The Europeans are years away from having this $1 trillion army they now think they need, and we're like, we've spent $350 billion and haven't moved the lines, and so what do, right? We have a president who's not interested in doing this anymore. So, something's got to happen, but we got to figure out like, what is a reasonable ask of Putin here, right? Is it just, you can't give him territory. It's like, well, you didn't give him nothing. He took it, right? It's taken. Like the facts on the ground are Putin controls this territory. So you're either going to tell me how we move Putin out of that territory or how we live with things as they are, because those are the only options that I know of. Right. Yeah. And maybe you can pay him a lot of money and he will say, okay, I don't need that territory. Right. I don't know what's out there, but like the idea that we can just make him do this and make him do that. And, he's got to show up with this plan and he's got to give in on this because of what? Based on what? Right. We have no leverage. So, it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. But, this idea that we have any way of pushing Putin around on this is nonsense.
Yeah, no, I mean, Putin has the distinct edge in this, and he knows it. So that's why we're still in this. So, the Trump administration needs to figure out a way to make this happen. I mean, Trump wants to have this happen. He's promised to make this happen, and Putin, shockingly, has been a roadblock, on this. Like I said, I'm not sure what actually makes this will be the final decider on this. The factor that will actually bring Putin to the table, and he's willing to at least agree to a ceasefire at the bare minimum. But we are closer, I guess. The fact that they're even talking about it,
they're moving, and there is a proposal being debated. Now, will the end result look like that proposal? I don't know, right? Whatever they negotiate on, but Kamala Harris, we would not be negotiating. We would be sending more checks and crossing our fingers and hoping that the strategy that hasn't worked yet will mysteriously start to work.
Right. I mean, I think that's what we have to kind of remember at the very least, is just that, this war has been going on for over 3 years. So it started, halfway through, or just just about a year into or so, I guess, of the Biden administration, and kept going, and nothing really happened except for the fact that we sent money and materiel, and NATO nations supplied additional money and materiel, and the Russia gained ground. Ukraine did an amazing job of holding as much ground as they have, considering the disadvantages that they were at throughout all of this. But yeah, the Biden administration was status quo. Trump is doing the Trump type of thing. So we just talked about Israel and movement there. There's movement here. It's just very different with Trump. It's like, I am not going to sit on my hands. We are going to take action. So that also leads us to yet another place where he's taking action, and that is the Houthis. Is that he is sick and tired of what the Houthis are doing, and now he wants to take action against the Houthis, which is, it's about time somebody did. It's about time. These guys are running rampant. They're creating havoc in our shipping lanes. It's really been hell. And so it's good that that Trump is saying, threatening them with action, and they say, we're going to do these things. So thoughts about the Houthis?
One important things about that is, where are the Houthis? Right, they're in Yemen. Right, they've sort of become a malignant host of Yemen. Right, or malignant virus on the body politic of Yemen. Okay, so that's a long way from here, right? That's as close as you can go ahead and say that's the other side of the world. Okay, so one of the things that's getting pointed out to the rest of the world here is, if your aim is to have someone, is to project force wherever on earth, there's still only one game in town, and it's us. We're still the only ones who can say, wherever on the map we need to stand up a military operation, we can, right? So I think that's part of that, is reminding people who's really in charge, right? The other thing is that's become a thing where you cannot ship through one of the most important shipping lanes in the world, right? And it's disruptive, not just to us, but to countries everywhere. And so, he's gone in and he's done that. And the other thing, about the Houthis is, who pays for their activities? Iran, right? So, a co-benefit of this is that he's provoking Iran. He's making them either spend resources or abandon the Houthis. So I think abandon the Houthis is going to be the end strategy there. And then they won't have the armaments, training, or money to bother anybody anymore.
Yeah, that would be a good sign. I mean, that's the thing, is that he's, and that's, like you said, I mean, going after the Houthis basically means going after Iran and sending them the message about, something has to be done about these guys.
Right.
And so, yeah, Iran has a choice to make as to what they want to do here. It would be in their best interest is to abandon the Houthis, because they really don't want the force of the U.S. coming down on them either at this point. So, yet another move, same place where, Biden administration didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything about it.
Yeah,
registered the complaints. Everybody was talking about it then too. Trump's like, who are these guys? Where is this? We'll go take care of it. Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, when I look at all of these things that we've just talked about, and and just world, events and other things, and how other leaders around the world have reacted to the Trump administration in general. It's just that, he's shaken things up even more so than he did the first time around. As the first time around, he was learning kind of the whole game of how things are done, and so getting and kind of building information, he did shake some things up in his first term, but the years that have passed since he was out of office trained him well to prepare for, I think coming in here with a battle plan of like, okay, this is what we're gonna work on, Israel, we're gonna work on Ukraine, Russia, we're gonna, the Houthis are in our target, and other things as well, in terms of we're gonna do all of these things, and it has shaken up a lot of world leaders, around, but on the other hand, there's been a positive effect to that, I think, or there will be in the long run. Uh, you know, I thought, and I think I said this, back in, the 2016, 2017, type of thing. It's like, instituted a whole new, type of diplomacy.
Right.
Biden administration, tried to go back to the old way. But Trump this time around may be making changes that will be hard to undo in a lot of ways.
Right.
That he's showing what he's doing now might embolden future presidents to say, yeah, we can be more aggressive. We can go in there and make certain demands and do those certain things, and we will then achieve our end goal, a lot quicker than sitting around a negotiating table for 2.5 years,
Right.
where nothing happens. So, you know, for all the flack that the administration catches, I think some people, at least especially on the world stage, if they look at foreign affairs, I think they've really missed, what's going on here and the importance of the Trump administration, and what is happening in world affairs. So there are other things that are, somewhat related to these. So we saw one of the other stories that came up were these alleged Venezuelan gang members being deported. My wife loved the whole thing where they're all, they're down and they're
I'll tell you what, that video is really the value of that deal. It's like,
Yeah.
if you're a gangbanger in the United States, you now see a possible fate for you that you had never imagined before, right? And they are organized and they are tough, and you are not going to defy them, right? There's no defiance of those guys. They're going along with the program because they don't want to see what happens if you don't. So, that's the video is huge in that. Like, that's a deterrent effect. Because like most of those guys, they don't think, they'll ever get caught. And if they do get caught, they've been conditioned to think it won't matter all that much, right? But now it's very much going to matter, right? Also, I think, these people are being deemed threats, right? This is foreign policy. So the judge trying to stop it was, that he's not going to succeed. Which leads to another kind of topic is, we're getting mad at these judges, right? I mean, everybody's yelling at these judges, and yesterday it got to the point where the Chief Justice clapped back at them and said, we don't impeach people just because we disagree with their rulings. Okay, he has no business speaking to this, right? He is completely out of line, weighing in on this, right? He doesn't, it's not his job to defend the judicial branch, right? It's not. And he's not a political actor. He just rules on cases, but he did step out, but on the other hand, let's quit talking about impeaching judges. Just wait. His point is entirely right. He says, just wait on this to smooth out. Just wait on the appellate process, right? Because most of these things are clear Article 2 powers, clear things that belong to the president, that they are not able to this thing, the law they're used to fly these Venezuelan gang members to Colombia. To El Salvador. They're not going to have to undo that. That law it specifically says in the statute that is not subject to judicial review. It's non-justiciable, as Stephen Miller said on TV yesterday. So, as soon as they can just get, past the left-wing activist district court judge, it's going to get struck down, but necessarily, right? The DC circuit is even throwing up its hands at a lot of this nonsense that's coming from the district judges. Now, the other side of that is the district judges are making fools of themselves. They are participating in a conspiracy with the Democrats to clog up Trump's agenda with meaningless lawsuits. They have to go chase the lawsuits, and Pam Bondi can't go prosecuting the people we all want her to prosecute. And you see on Twitter every day, I don't know if you see it, I see it, where they're like, what is she doing? Like, why did we get her? She ain't doing nothing. I don't see anybody in bracelets yet, right? Handcuffs yet. So the fact is, you will see people, but they're slowed down responding to 52 lawsuits a day that will not succeed, right? You don't get a volume discount on this stuff, and she's got to keep fighting. You got to keep turning this stuff in and signing people to write the briefs and signing people to make the court appearances and all that kind of stuff. So that's where they are right now, and I think that we're not far from a big judge, whether it's SCOTUS or somebody just below, saying enough of this, right? You guys are making transparently political decisions from the bench. You're eroding the confidence of the country in the judiciary. So, and you need to stop. So, they're not far from being told to stop.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as I've watched this, because we're just seeing, you talk the numerous suits that are going on, it has made me wonder, really, for the first time, about what court actually has jurisdiction over these types of matters, if and whether or not it's just this is the Democrats in essence going shopping, right? They're looking, they specifically are targeting specific judges, specific courts,
and saying known to be pro-Democrat and weak on principles,
but favorable, that will issue injunctions that will declare the Trump administration has had an unconstitutional act on this, that, or the other. But yeah, I mean, somebody has to step in and just say, no, you can't take it there. It's like, if you want to file this suit, you've got to take it to this level. This is where it goes. And
the other thing is like, if you're a district court judge, you don't get to say what the whole nation does.
Right. No, right.
They come, because they go judge shopping, right? So if you're in Northern District of California, you want to enjoin whatever in Northern California, have at it. But to tell the whole nation they can't do it because you got a problem in Northern California, I don't know, but that's one of the solutions I think they're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of us are lawyers, but frequently, what we see is that when these courts issue rulings, we always have to be reminded of that the rulings apply to a narrow area, right? I mean, it's to the area that they have jurisdiction over, whatever, that whole the circuit court or whatever, and it can have potential nationwide implications, because it might get others to file other similar suits in other courts to get to say, okay, we want to cite that court decision as something we can use to broaden that out and whatnot. But this is a problem, I think, where why are we having a judge, like you said, in California or wherever it is, making a decision that is basically affecting the entire nation, or you're trying to get in on federal government policy overall, when their jurisdiction is not over that. I mean, they have if you're the circuit court of whatever, you're this is where you are. I mean, if you've got territory, you've got X amount of states, your ruling can affect actions in those states, but it should not affect the actions in other states unless their courts rule similarly, and you start seeing that. But that
would make lawfare a lot more expensive, right? Because you'd have to go do it 8 times or 11 times or whatever. You can't just do it one time. So but once you get precedent, it gets a lot easier. If the Democrats ever get one of these where they actually have right on their side, you can just keep repeating that all over the country, and that'll be the law of the land.
Right. So, I mean, what's your take then, just on, because there's just been this slew of lawsuits, like when it comes to, what DOJ has been doing with, government employee firings. And, there was a ruling, I guess, the other day about, the shutting down of VOA was unconstitutional, and you're trying to bring back the employees and things like that.
That these are executive branch agencies. Trump has to faithfully execute the laws, right? That's what his oath is. So, it's not Congress and Trump and the courts faithfully execute. It's the president, right? One president. So, that's one of. So I think what's going to happen is, like, you realize, when they give these orders, and people need to understand, judge ordered all these people rehired in California. They've not been rehired. Judges ordered all these payments to go back out for USAID. These payments are not being sent, right? This is all held in abeyance until appeal. The planes did not turn around in the air for Judge Boasberg, right? They just kept going and did what they did. So, what do you call it? There's de jure and there's de facto. De jure, this stuff all may have injunctions, but de facto, Trump's policy is getting carried out, right? So, if they go unearth it and win the case, then Trump will have to change his tune. But you think about, like, if you work for USAID and you've been fired, or VOA, or any of these other agencies that they basically, Department of Education, the EPA, whoever, right? And you've been fired. Okay. So what are you going to do? Because this is going to be churning in the courts for a year or more. You're going to sit there with no job, hoping that somebody who totally doesn't want you will have to take you back. Most people won't do that. They'll move on, right? So then if the court says, oh, you must fill those 200 positions again, who are they going to be filled with, right? Not Biden loyalists, Trump loyalists, right? So that's another thing they kind of need to understand on the other side is, the burrowing problem that we've complained about, where, people go into government who have a political agenda. They don't get political positions. They get civil service protected positions and so forth. And they can still undermine administrations from that level, right? And they do the dirty work of not letting the president be effective. That's been a problem for us. They keep messing around like this, there will be a problem for them. They're the next Democrat president because, they're going to kill all these positions, right? And if the courts make them fill them, they'll be filled with Republicans. They'll be filled with people hired by the Trump administration. So it'll be a different ball of wax entirely.
I saw something the other day that I think it was Maryland and New Mexico, maybe some other states have joined in, but they're actually actively recruiting some of these laid off government employees, especially the ones that are in IT. They're
Right.
like, we want you, we'd love to have you come and work for us. I don't know how many federal government employees want to move to New Mexico per se, but if it's a job and they have nothing,
you
maybe
still
that's
get what you made here and you live in New Mexico. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And yeah. And I think one of the carrots they dangle with them too is that, their government service, federal government service would count in the state government so that, you basically would get some pension protection that,
Yeah.
you would qualify quicker, for a New Mexico or Maryland pension, because you have these years of federal government service that doesn't just go down the drain or whatever if you were a little short on the federal government side. So, I still think that, I want to see the small government. I do wish that it was a little more targeted, or at least done with a little more forethought than it just seems to be. It still seems to be a little bit kind of here and there. We got there employees. There's some employees that are laid off with little rhyme or reason. The overall effect is good. The implementation of some of this thing not as well thought out, but maybe that'll get smoothed out over time. I am just puzzled, by the whole VOA thing, because I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think the VOA was a big deal in terms of, something that we had to worry about. I have participated.
Left-wing propaganda broadcast all over the world. And, this is America's view, and America's view is hardcore left-wing. So, I don't mind them shutting it down. It's a Cold War relic. We're spending a lot of money and not getting a lot of benefit from it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on VOA programs in the past, so I knew that it was. I guess part of it too is it also depends upon who's running the show, right? I mean, the administrations, under a Reagan era, or a Bush era would be different than under an Obama, Clinton, Biden era in terms of what the messaging is on that.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think that like Kari Lake started looking into it and realized that you weren't really going to be able to change the messaging. That the people who did the messaging were going to try to stay in place, and in many cases would stay in place, so you would get what you had before. I think that's part of why, because they were talking about they had a plan, like to make a skinny, Voice of America, skinny, the whole thing, the whole big package, global engagement, and small it down, narrowly focus it on narrow purposes, narrow needs. And that goes out the window now, because they looked and they say, well, they're never really going to let us run this like we want to run it. So that's why they decided to shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting argument, because I think that yeah, I mean, run it like they want to run it. I mean, just I don't have a problem with them trying to be an independent voice for America, but they should be pro-America in the same sense of the word,
Right.
too. This is you're saying you're the voice of America. Let's defend America. Do not put out garbage, on your airwaves that is detrimental to all of our positions and and things like
And
that.
I don't want them. I'm not interested at all in them having an independent voice. They're a government operation. They're here to achieve government ends, right? Pro U.S. government ends. They're not there to express their feelings.
Yeah, I mean they can be a U.S. government propaganda machine. I'd be fine.
Yeah,
for the right thing.
now U.S. government propaganda should be about MAGA and about America first and about strong foreign policy, right? Which it wouldn't be under any configuration of VOA or the rest of the agencies if they're allowed to continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting things too about this administration is that you've got someone like Lake, or you have someone like Linda McMahon. In essence, they're over a couple of agencies that are being severely downsized, if not trying to be totally shut down. Interesting jobs they've taken is, in essence, to try to oversee what they hope to be as a shutdown. They're basically working themselves out of a job. Whether or not they fully succeed will be another question, because I think the education department is going to be tougher to completely shut down. I don't know the law enough to say that, but it sounds like it'll take an act of Congress to get rid of it. But in the meantime, if you basically skinny it down and you have just the skeleton crew of employees, you've probably in essence put them out of business anyway, right?
Right.
They won't be able to do much of anything. So you may have not have officially shut them down, but you have effectively shut them down.
Right.
And all. So
again, de facto, if not de jure.
Right. Yeah. And it's, Musk will continue doing what he's doing until he's wrapped up with all his Doge stuff. And that maybe he can get back to running his companies. And I mean, he's definitely become the lightning rod for the liberals. We're watching all all the demonstrations and the torching of the cars and all this kind of crazy stuff. And hello lefties, you're just proving Elon's point. I mean, Elon seems to be on Twitter just kind of throwing things out there, just kind of saying, well, once again, he puts out more stuff on Twitter, just showing how unhinged the left is, in their thinking. They can't get anything right these days at all.
Yeah.
So here's that quirky little thing too. So we have this French member of the European Parliament saying that he wants the U.S. to return the Statue of Liberty. Yeah.
Which our press secretary, two-headed rim rocker dunk, is like, yeah, well, if it wasn't for us, you guys would be speaking German. So
I did like that line. That was a great line.
Yeah, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie, and it's true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's not going to be any action on this at all. I mean, this person's a low-level, European Parliament member and everything like that. But it shows the frustration of kind of the left with Donald Trump and the MAGA policies, that they would even throw up the idea of, we want the Statue of Liberty back. It's like, sorry,
bro.
But I mean, with Trump, that could start a whole new level of war, of different kinds
Right.
of things.
And the other thing is like, so what happens, world relations once this is there, you get some resolution on Ukraine, right? The Europeans really going to still spend $1 trillion on an army, a duplicative army? I don't know. I mean, I just don't sense that they have the public will in those countries to do that. You start saying, okay, well, we can't afford this climate or this, gender or whatever program because we're supporting defense. I don't think that's going to go well.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been conditioned to think they don't really need that stuff, and the reason they don't really need that stuff is us, right? They may be about into being for some training to the contrary.
Yeah, this will be. It's we live in very interesting times.
Oh yeah, we do.
Things are not how they used to be by any stretch of imagination.
Yeah.
So the Democrats have been somewhat rocked, I guess, by this CNN poll or whatever put this poll out. At least I know CNN and others reported on it, which is on Democrats, the party's favorability sinking to a historic all-time low. What was it? Was it 29% or something?
Yeah, they said 29. I've seen some of these things that are even lower, like in the low 20s. So I mean, but 29, that's still, Trump's at what, 51 on Rasmussen today. So Trump is not. He's not declining, right? He's been 51, 52, 50 almost every day of his term. He hasn't been in the 40s yet. He's been above 50 every single day, and that's the most accurate pollster, right? I guess they were second in the 24 cycle. They were the second most accurate pollster. All the people who were saying his popularity collapses are the people who said that Harris was going to win. It's a 1-to-1 matchup right now.
Yeah, I mean, and what is it saying about the Democratic Party and where they're at right now?
They don't, did you see the banjos? We don't know what we're doing. We have no leadership. We have no clue, right? So you have different ones. Like, I don't know if you saw this. There was a video last night. There was AOC. She goes, "I don't know why I came on here. I don't know why I came on here to talk. I don't know what I have to say. It's just frustrating. Like, it's like, right, you don't have a clue, right? And it's getting exposed that you don't have a clue, and that many in your party don't have a clue, and that government by emotion is not acceptable to the American people anymore."
Yeah, I mean, and we're still, with the whole, continuing resolution, the whole budget, the spending bill and everything like this. Chuck Schumer rallies his troops. They get this, they get the spending bill over the goal line. And that has created this big schism, right, between the House and the Senate now. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are now they don't seem to be on the same page. And then Nancy Pelosi weighed in, and so she was. Yeah, I thought she was. I thought she was Chuck's buddy, but she just kind of like stuck a shiv in.
She puts the shiv. She don't care about that. He's not, they don't have an answer. The thing about Schumer in that deal was the CR, right? They all got mad at him because he went for the CR. He accused Thune of not having the votes. And Thune said, well, okay, let's just see who's got the votes, and called the vote. And it turned out that Thune was correct, that it was Chuck who did not have the votes. He did not. He had enough members wanting to vote for the CR that he couldn't have stopped it, right? And so he started trying to cut a deal to where it didn't look, they got something for their support, right? And they're like, well, we don't really need you because, you shot all the hostages already. So, he had nothing to negotiate on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about this last week too. It's just that, Schumer, I think, went on The View to try to explain what's going on there, because Schumer's been put on the defensive big time, right? Just like
the
Democrats.
Sonny Hostin read him the riot act.
Yeah. They're just, everybody's just after him, and yet, for Schumer, I mean, he's trying to explain I almost kind of feel sorry for him, because he's trying to say, look, they were kind of backed into court. What was his choice?
We don't have the votes. What do you want me to do?
They didn't have the votes, and if the last thing he wanted to do was give Trump and Musk any power to shave more from the government, right? And so, but by passing this bill and getting Democrat support, at least keeps things running, and it doesn't Trump and Elon will work on at their pace, but they weren't going to have as much authority, to do so. So they kind of slowed that train down a little bit, and he's trying to explain this, but he's just having a hard time. I was like, I almost feel sorry for Chuck, but I really don't.
Yeah, not that guy.
I'm just such a nice guy. Okay.
But it is tough. One thing I have to admit, like the last couple of days, I've had some respect for Chuck because he has gone on. It wasn't just The View, but there's been 3 or 4 shows he's been on where it's 5 people basically telling him that he was a traitor and sold out the party, and he's trying to explain to him, and I've got a plan, and we're doing the best we can, and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, he didn't duck the bump, right? He went into the fire and took tough questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. You have to give him credit. He's been facing kind of the firing squad with the liberals, and he's still defending the position that he took. And that's one thing that bothers me and has bothered me about politicians forever, which is that they won't stand up for their principles often. They will wither. They get a certain amount of criticism. Republicans are really good at just falling over and just saying, okay, caving. But I'll give Schumer some credit that he's at least sticking to his guns, and he's not changing his tune. He's trying to explain why he did this, and he's staying on his message, right? He's got his talking points and he's sticking to them. And this is what it is. If you don't like it, tough. But this is why I did this. This is why, why we went ahead and did this. This is why I completely flipped, in public, what I said we were going to do. We're not going to vote for it, and the next thing you know, we're going to vote for it. So it's hard to do when you're the leader like that, to be able to do that. But he is trying very hard to defend this, and then and like I said before, and then you got Pelosi's like, I never gave away anything.
That's right.
It's like, hey, thanks, Nancy. I thought we were pals. What happened here? Thanks for throwing me under the bus.
Yeah.
And everything. It's just amazing. All right. Just last quick thing here. JFK files were released. Trump wanted to release them. No real bombshells, I guess.
Because there's a bullet through the front of the windshield. That couldn't have come from Oswald. Who knows what it means. I guess Kennedy called Biden a traitor. That was in there.
The one thing about this is that Trump said this is going to go out unredacted, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so it's out.
You
it's one of those things. It's like, I don't think anything Trump's going to release on this is going to like magically change our thinking on it a whole bunch. Right. But there's all kind of shady stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wonder then, it's like, he's done this. Is he looking at any other things that have been sealed for decades and say,
I guess they're going to get to the Epstein files here pretty soon. The Democrats all think it's, he won't do it because it implicates him. It doesn't implicate him. Right. Believe me, the Democrats had these files, right? They've had them for a long time. So he has run for president 3 times while they were in possession of most or all of this material, right? So why would they let him run 3 times? And this time, they knew coming down the stretch they weren't going to win. So they just go let Trump go into the White House and keep this information secret? No, right? There's no way that if the Democrats had Trump in October of 2024, Trump at Epstein Island doing it with little girls, right? If you had that, they would have brought it out then, right? They would have put it out because that was their only chance to beat for Kamala to win. So they didn't have it, or they would have put it out. It's not there.
All right, I think we've reached the end here, Brian. I want you to take us out.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, the town halls is performative nonsense. Ignore. Let's see. Exhausted. Lawrence O'Donnell exhausted by Trump.
And he's, yeah,
Bonnie
so
ordered to pay.
he was going to take a week off or something. It was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. And, you know, all the trashing they do of Elon, we needed Elon to go get those astronauts, right? Well, NASA couldn't do it. They said, we got to cut off Elon's funding. It's like, okay, well, you have no space program, and you were the guys who wanted the EVs. We didn't want them. I never asked for EVs. Did you? Right? No, that was your idea. So whatever. You know, Trump canceled the Secret Service for Hunter and Ashley Biden. I think that is, you could say reduce. I could say reduce. He had 12 people or whatever on his detail. But, you know, there are a lot of people, crazies out there. And now if a leftist goes and does it, right, it could be a leftist could go do it. It would really make Trump look bad, right, if something happened to either one of them. So, you know, that's a little risky. I probably would not have done that.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Haven't seen Bob lately. Was Bob on? Bob wasn't with us last week, was he?
I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, I think he did come in with something last week.
Yeah, I don't know. A week, and my memory goes, I don't know.
There you go.
What did I eat for lunch yesterday? Anyway, as I was saying, I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. Please, as always, stay healthy and stay safe. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America, and we will see you again next week.